Welcome to the Organizational Transformation Kung Fu podcast with your hosts, Sandi and Jennifer Long.
So welcome to the last episode of Organizational Transformation Kung Fu for 2024. And you'll note in 2025 that this is the last time that we're going to refer to it as Organizational Transformation Kung Fu. So more on that coming your way. Today, we're going to talk about goal setting like a Kung Fu master. I'm Sandi from Satori Consulting in Toronto, and I'm here with my friend and colleague, Jen Long from Own Up in Denver, Colorado. Jen, always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure to see your face and see what's up and have hopefully what is a helpful, meaningful, interesting conversation about some stuff you should be thinking about as a leader, as a manager.
Yeah. So I was thinking about this podcast before we started, and did you know that this is our 54th podcast in our leadership series?
Ooh, 54. Ooh, there's some time.
Yeah, there's some time put into this for sure. And this year alone, we've covered topics related to listening, influencing strategy, critical thinking, and red teaming and change. We've interviewed some esteemed authors, such as Dawn Pontefract and Todd Conklin. And we've interviewed a few kick-ass women leaders like Kara Cameron and Julie Ellis. So we have covered the gamut in 2024.
That we have.
Yeah. So it's been a busy year, both in podcasting, as you can tell, and in our own businesses. And we're both really looking forward to 2025 and all that it's going to bring. But we know that success, both personally and in business, needs reflection and planning. Much like the practice of Kung Fu that teaches us mastery, it's a journey and not a destination. The same applies for achieving goals. By approaching 2025 with the discipline, focus, and adaptability of a Kung Fu master, we can turn resolutions into reality, and we are sure of that. So, Jen, why don't you kick us off with why reflection and goal setting is so important?
Well, to state the obvious, right? You've got to be able to, all of your learning comes from reflection and all of your understanding, right? If you're going to seed the lessons, if you're going to take things on, if you're going to actually grow as a person, reflection is how it happens, right? Your humility is the doorway to your learning. And those moments of self-reflection are the moments of humility where we're like, how am I really seeing myself? What did that feel like for me? What did I get from that? What held meaning, what didn't? All of those things give you the ability to rack and stack and look back to look forward. And that's why the end of the year is always that kind of time of self-reflection. We all sort of were like, oh God, how'd that go? What do I want to do different? What did I love? What did I hate? And how do I want to handle it in the new year? So we figured we'll just join the fray on that thought and see if we can't give you some good ideas or some tips and tricks on good ideas to do a more meaningful kind of reflection goal setting experience so that you're coming in with a little bit more realism and stuff that doesn't peter out in the first 30 days, right? We're not going to send you to the gym.
yeah, making it stick, right? That's always the kicker. Like there's such good intention out there, but the stickiness factor, it peters. I think I read by February 15th, 90% of resolutions, have fallen off because now we're eating the cookies. We're not at the gym anymore, and we've given up on everything that we thought was a good idea in December. So one of the things that I think we talk about a lot on our podcast and that we both sort of aspire to is journaling. So finding that time in the next couple of weeks to really reflect. And as Jen says, humility allows you, if you have a book and you're writing it down, don't judge, just let it flow and see what comes up for you in terms of that learning and what you can take away. I think not being in judgment of self it's really important in this in order to learn.
Yeah. To be honest, to be candid, and not judgmental and not self-critical. Because it's not about that. It's about noticing. It's about really being discerning about what you've come through, what your experiences have been um, that held some kind of, where in the last year do you feel like you grew, that you pivoted, that you took something on, that you, what are you proud of? Who was involved in that? Like, when you look at the story you tell yourself about that, what are you noticing? And how does that help you start to inform how you can set things up for yourself going forward? So yeah, the writing it down also makes you think it through at a deeper level. It's one
Hmm.
thing to just sit and ponder and let your brain go. It's another thing to put it to paper. And um, some of you are maybe digital natives and you type all that stuff onto a screen. I, of course, live in the land of, where's my pen? I need
And
pen and
paper
paper,
in my black
because
book.
that's where the moment really comes, is when I have to form those sentences and put those words together and look at that. Um, it's a deeper level of contemplation than if I were to just talk it out.
Yeah. And so carve out the time. Nobody else is going to see it. It's only for you. So there's no point in fooling yourself because you know better. But finding the time, I think, is important. And usually the last couple of weeks of December through the holidays, you can always find some time. So it's a perfect time for reflection. So we reflect. And then what do we do? What do we recommend?
What do you recommend? Well, what are the aspirations of the year, right? What are you looking at? What is your, you know, what's typically your pattern? What are your quarter by quarter kind of cadences? What are your practices? What, the easy question is, what's working, what's not working, right? What are you feeling dissatisfied about? What's not quite there for you, right? And what does that mean? And so when you look at changing something, when you look at establishing, I'm hoping and I'm aspiring to move into something else, getting a clear understanding of what you're moving toward, um, vice just moving away from, right? So this didn't work, so I got to do something different. Maybe I'll try this, but really kind of fleshing out, what is this, right? What is the
Hmm.
moving the toward thing? Because I think it's important to uh, paint the picture of what the aspiration is really about, of what the objective is really about, of what the experience needs to be, whatever that goal might be, and to think of it maybe in two ways, right? Is there a hard goal? Is there a specific objective, right? Increase business by this much, increase productivity by this much, to fix this self-destructive behavior, eliminate that, right? um what is the clear hard goal, but then what's the human goal behind that? What's the self um practice that might be attached to that, so that it's a lot more. And I know we can talk about SMART goals, which is kind of businessy, but when you think
Yeah.
about, how you're going to transform yourself, I like to think of it as hard and soft. What is the hard thing? But the encapsulation of the outcome. But what is the human part that you're really uh, working toward? What does that look like in terms of your own self-talk, in terms of your own practices, in terms of your own self-destructive behaviors? Like, what might that be?
I sort of look at it in terms of like strategy. So what is your vision? So that big, hairy, audacious goal or goals that you have, and then start breaking it down to say, well, what can I do? Right? If I want to be here by the end of 2025, what are the things that I can do? And then you say there's the business side, but there's the human side of change on that. So what is your vision? If you can think about it in terms of, your kung fu stance, if you will. You're standing in your fighter stance, and what might that be if for you throughout 2025? And so, sort of taking it broad and then bringing it down is always a good way of looking at it.
Yeah, yeah. And if we're gonna get into the kung fu of it, right? So it's a lot about um discipline, right? What is the discipline I need? And the
Yeah.
discipline, is about the practice as much as it is about the support, right? Of what does that look like? And so if I'm going to be more disciplined about something, um, what what is my practice and what kind of support do I need to maintain that practice?
Yeah, I think one of the things that Simon Sinek always says is you can't do it alone. And so, you're not doing this in a vacuum. No, you're not planning. You wouldn't build a strategic plan for a business or your division or your group of people in a vacuum. And so everybody needs support. So who is it that you need around you in order to help you um, sort of cement that discipline in order to make it happen? And who can you confide in that you trust that will help you and be honest with you as you're going through this journey?
Right.
So
Right.
asking for help, because when you ask for help, others will ask for help as well. So it's sort of reciprocal.
Right. Right. And I think that's I think a lot of us go, these are things I just need to do on my own. And
Mm,
the support factor is what are we noticing? Because that sort of leads into a thought I'm having around how do you know it's working, right?
yeah.
The whole measuring, monitoring aspect of this is as much about there's so many parallels, right? From strategy, right? Into how do we know we're achieving the goal? How do we know? Am I getting there? What does getting there look like? How do I know I'm getting there? Like what do you need to see? How do you know? And I think that we think about that stuff in kind of a metricy way. We think of it as, how many times did I um stop myself from having an overly emotional reaction if I'm working on my emotional intelligence or whatever it might be. Um, but it's also understanding what you want to monitor, which kind of puts you more in the mindset of what are the leading indicators of, right?
Yes. Right.
When you had that thought of, oh, I don't need to exercise today, I'm going to, right? What brought it on and how do you monitor? Uh,
Yes, which was me before I got out of bed. I have to tell you that this morning. I had very much that thought.
yes,
No, not today. But it's the end of the year. I got next year to think about.
right?
Yeah.
The what kind of excuses are you going to give yourself? What are the things you're going to tell yourself that are going to let you off the hook of engaging in what you want to do for yourself? Because
Hmm.
I think that's something to monitor. Oh, I'm having that conversation in my head
Hmm.
because we all know how we do it.
Oh, geez. Yes. So many different ways. And when you give yourself a free pass, what is that doing to your end goal? So thinking about that vision, when you give yourself that free pass to not get out of bed and hit the spin bike, um, what is that doing to your goal? And clearly it's taking you away from it, not further or closer to. So is it working for you? And again, it goes back to that self-reflection and always monitoring it on an ongoing basis, a daily basis, a weekly basis. How am I doing? Because because of that practice piece that you mentioned, Jen, when you keep it top of mind, it becomes ingrained. It's not
Mhm.
something that you pull out in 6 months and go, oh yeah, that was a really nice document I wrote. But you're referring to it all the time, and it becomes your practice, your daily practice of how you're going to achieve your vision for 2025.
Yeah. And what are the touch points of these things? And there's so many tips and tricks and tools, and you got to figure out which ones work, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because there's a lot of them that don't. There's these really great daily planner things that
Mm,
set you up in a mindful thing, right? And they're beautifully built. They ask great questions. They put your mind in great spaces. And then you're doing it for 2 months, and then all of a sudden you stop. And it never shows up again. And I think that's the moment to go, how important is this? Right? How important is this? And that's the humility question of how, what's your pattern? And this is the self-reflection. Um, a lot of it is, what is your pattern?
Yes,
How'd you fall
absolutely.
off the path last year? What was it that why didn't you reach some of the goals you set for yourself last year? Or did you set goals for yourself last year? Have you given up on and there's a whole school of thought, right? This is it's just a colossal waste of time to do this kind of exercise that people just, and I have mixed feelings about that. I think, right? Short term, long term, you gotta manage that polarity, because if you don't get short term wins, the long term becomes moot, right?
It is. It is. And so I equate it to like our business and our business planning. We always need to be thinking ahead and reinventing. And in business, that's one thing. It's no different than ourselves. We need to stay ahead of the curve, whether that's through education, whether that's through mindful planning, whatever it might be. We always need to. And we can't let our excuses get in our way. And if it's an excuse, you need to figure out, really talk to yourself about whether it's an excuse or a reality. And if it's an excuse, how do we go around our excuses? Is it actually a barrier to your success? In which case, then you need to maybe be a little agile and pivot a little bit to what it is that you want to achieve. But if it's an excuse,
Right.
we need to flick those away.
Well, and I think one of the biggest excuses we put into the mix is I'm not wired that way. That's just not who I am. Like,
I don't have time is the other.
Well, yeah, time is a choice. How you choose to spend it, right? And so time, never use that with that. That's just lame. But isn't it though?
It is, but I hear it all the time.
It's like, I don't know. It's like, no, we all have the same amount. What are you choosing to do with it?
Yeah.
Right? What's really important to you? And those are right to the values questions of how important is this? Because obviously you keep choosing not to do it. And so it's not important, because what you're choosing to do is what you're telling me is what is important. And you got to look at it through that lens. And if you're going to tell me things like, I'm not wired that way, right? When we start to use our personality or our behavior traits as an excuse, right? That's not an excuse either, in the sense that behavior is contextual.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the context that you are in? And how well do you really know yourself, right? Because I think people who struggle with goals are also people who are more comfortable in a place where they are less persistent. They're willing to be more gut based. They're willing to be, I shouldn't say willing to be, that's the comfort zone, right?
Yes.
There are some people who are super driven and super persistent and have a lot of stick to itiveness. And we all look at those people and go, oh man, I wish I could. And you can, but if you know that about yourself, that's the effort.
Yeah.
And so when you think about that effortfulness of, I have to demonstrate more persistence with these things, how are you helping yourself with your own persistence? Because it is out of your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm. And what choices are you making along the way, right? We're always at choice.
Right.
Always at choice. And I think that's a huge part of it. So we have our vision.
Mm-hmm.
And now we need to really distill it down to what? What do you think is manageable in terms of goals? 5? 3 to 5?
3, 5.
People say 10. I think it's too many. You can't focus on everything. Can't boil the ocean.
It's demotivating when you've got too many.
Yeah. So 3 to 5, I think, is a good number. And they need to be really specific. One of the things, and you've probably read James Clear's book on Atomic Habits. Everybody's read it. Have you read it?
Everybody's read it but me.
Everybody but you. Okay.
I've heard about it.
Yeah.
I've seen the table of contents, but I haven't actually taken the time. Okay. But I think it's a powerful read, so you're going to have to tell
it's a pretty good book. But one of the things he has is these 4 points when he's about goal setting. And one is to make it obvious. The next is to make it attractive to you, not to others. To make it easy, and to make it satisfying. And so that's just sort of a different way of looking at those goals, rather than that sort of make them a bit more intuitive to yourself and what they mean to you. And so I thought that was a kind of
all those words felt so much better than smart.
I know, right?
Yeah. And SMART goals just seem so.
I see just like, and this is a personal thing that you're building, right? This is something for you. So I kind of like that framework.
Yeah.
3 to 5 goals that are obvious and attractive to you and easy and satisfying for you that will take you closer to your vision as to what you want to be or achieve by the end of 2025.
Yeah. And there's something really to be said about when when you use that kind of language, of how you're really lining up how you're feeling, right? With what you desire with action
Mm-hmm.
and alignment in those things, right? And I think a lot of times we want to just rationalize desire, we want to rationalize action, and we skip how we feel about it. And that I think that feeling thing is really, really important, especially when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
personal goals, personal growth, right? That the alignment of all those things, how am I thinking, feeling, what do I really want? And how does that inform the action? That alignment, that all that language speaks to me of how you create that alignment.
Right. So I think what it takes away is that the I shoulds. So I should
Mm,
go to the gym. I should go on a diet. I should do my MBA. And should is always that, is it for you? Is it for others? And I think when it's attractive to you and satisfying to you, then it's about you and your needs and not perhaps what other people are putting onto you as what might be the best course of action for you. So it's really about personalizing it, deeply
yeah,
personalizing it so that it
yeah,
as really something that you can make stick.
right. And so, should is about listening to others
Mm-hmm.
versus um, needs, right, and desires, and that's about listening to yourself. And this kind of goal setting is really about listening to yourself.
Mm-hmm. 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 So we have our vision, we have our 3 to 5 goals that we've done. Um, Measurement of them would probably be next. How are we going to measure our success? Is it binary, yes or no? Is there some cadence at which you want to measure it? Because maybe it's something that's going to take longer than a couple of months, or but how will you measure your success? I think is an important thing to look at, or it just becomes something you wrote on a piece of paper that you're not holding yourself accountable to. Because as my friend Jen Long would say, if you have clarity, you have accountability. And so I think that's important.
That's 100% important because if you're not clear, you know, it's not gonna happen. And if it's not clear, you don't fully own what it is. And if you can't see it, you can't get there.
Mm-hmm.
That's just all there is to it. And so that all comes together in painting a really good level of expectation for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and to know when you're off the path, have you lost clarity? What has shifted, right? Do you need to re-examine the goal? Because, sometimes I think we set things for ourselves and we see things for ourselves in a period of time.
Yes.
And things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And do your goalposts move? Because it's perfectly normal if they do, but
Absolutely.
it's the fact that you still have the horizon and the view toward, right? And it's easy to get lost in the day-to-day.
Yeah. Yeah. Adaptability is critical. If it was look back at strategy, you can't write a 5-year strategy or 3-year strategy and expect nothing to move, right? Because you're doing it with the information that you have at hand. Perhaps during the year, you have an elderly parent that becomes ill and you need to shift. And that's okay. You need to give yourself grace to,
Mhm,
to do that shift. But the caveat I think in my mind on that is that you have to do it intentionally. So
mhm.
I'm shifting because this is happening, but this is what I'm going to do to continue to work toward it. But I'm maybe not going to do the bigger thing that I was going to do. So you don't lose sight of it. You shift within it.
Right, right, and I really like the idea of the short-term sprint. Like, What's the immediacy of like, so the milestoning and the, what do I want to do in the first quarter that's going to move me there? What do I want to do in the first 30 days that's going to move me there? Right. And when you get into that kind of practice, then you're also in a position where you're thinking about it more frequently as opposed to less frequently. Because damn it, when we talk about a practice, it's the whole point of the Kung Fu metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
It's a practice. And it's something that daily, weekly, it's part of what you do. It isn't something that's just on your calendar that you attend to.
Yes.
And that's a huge shift in what's my practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And which is why the, how do you bring it in to your life? Because I think when you look at it as an external thing and it's something I'm going to try this thing, dieting, right? If you're actually, it's really more about a practice of your relationship to food.
Absolutely.
It's not a 60-day experience. And so this is us saying, what is your relationship to achievement? What is your relationship to growth? What is your relationship to personal transformation?
Yeah. To self.
Because that's what this is. And if you're going to get good at moving in a direction and growing as a person and becoming what it is you want to become, it's the practice of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the way you live. It's a way of being. It's not just a box of tools you get out when you need to do something.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have the measurements, and you sort of talked about taking those goals and breaking them into short-term sprints, things that you can achieve, things that are achievable, that you can tick off, you can celebrate, you can say that win, you can see that it is getting to be closer to where you want to go, and that's all very motivating, right? That's what keeps us going when we see the change, when we see the the scale change in the right direction. When people notice that you've changed, that could be in the workplace. People notice that maybe you've stepped into your leadership self a little bit more, and because you really were leaning into your emotional intelligence or something external to that. But breaking it down into those bite-sized pieces just make it a little bit more attainable. And as I think, Jen, you mentioned, is that consistency of practice. And you're not just picking it up in 6 or 8 months and dusting it off. And
and
it's
it's the
becoming
momentum that you
Yeah.
create with the short-term wins, right?
Mm-hmm.
Please start with the low-hanging fruit. Start with the stuff that you're like, okay, right? Because that is, we are, monkeys want a treat.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, so I think that's it in a nutshell, right? It's some self-reflection. It's what's your vision? What are your goals? What are your KPIs in terms of measurement? And then how do we break it down into those short-term sprints where we can celebrate our own success? All along the way, being agile and nimble and change where needed, as long as it's something that is in support of where you want to go, and making sure that we're not putting excuses in our way, and that we know the difference and we can talk to ourselves about the difference.
Yeah. And all that. And to say too, is part of the reason this tradition lives, part of the reason, even though you'll get just as many reports about, well, goal setting is just a complete waste of time and we never, resolutions are dumb.
Uh-huh.
Even though all that kind of is out there at the same time, this taking stock, this reflection, this is also about how do you stay healthy mentally and
Mm-hmm.
emotionally when you don't create space for thinking about self, reflection on self in a healthy way, in a way about growth, in a critical way, right? As opposed to a pity party.
Mm-hmm.
This is, and I think in the world right now, so why I would encourage everyone to do this kind of thing is you really set yourself up to have a healthier year, to have a more stable, productive, giving, receiving, open, whatever that word is that's going to resonate with you. Like, what is that year need to be for you? Because I think we owe it to ourselves in this world right now to do it. And if we are going to stay preoccupied with all the things out here, right? And all the, it's not going to, it's not going to bode well. And
No, no. All the shit
we
that's
need it.
happening around us, we need
We need it. We need to do it
self-preservation a
for
little bit.
ourselves. We need this
Yeah.
to bring ourselves into the world in a way that makes the world better, not only for ourselves, but for the immediate people that we do work with and that we are connected to. And when you're better, the people that you connect to can be better because you bring that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. On our website, on the Satori consultinginc.ca website, there are 2 wheels of satisfaction. One is a life wheel of satisfaction and the professional wheel of satisfaction. They are easily downloadable and sort of fillable. An easy way to say, maybe to start you off to look where maybe you're low in some areas to help you with your 2025 goal setting. So that's an option. And as Jen said, there's lots of books and different formulas out there that you can pick off the internet to help you start streamlining your thoughts and getting it out there for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Get your kung fu together for this next year. We're going to be here all next year to help you on the kung fu, because that's what good coaches do. We are the support and discipline for so many people that
Yes.
we kind of get to the end of the year and we're like, are you drinking your own Kool-Aid? Where did you not drink your Kool-Aid? And you got to do it. And so if we're going to be good at our practice, to help you be good at your practice, we're doing the same exercises. So don't you fear.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
we're gonna reshape it for next year. So maybe we can take a minute and talk about what we're doing on the pod next year.
Well, we took some stock a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was last week. I can't remember. We've been talking about this for a while. And, Organizational Transformation Kung Fu, when we named the podcast so many years ago,
We were drinking wine.
We were drinking a whole lot of wine in a hotel, and it made a whole lot of sense. And it does make a whole lot of sense to me and to Jen, I think, as well. But it may not make as much sense to our listeners. So
we're going to make it easy.
You're going to make it easy.
We're going to change the name. We're going to stop calling it Organizational Transformation Kung Fu, because that is a mouthful for everyone. Which is why we started calling it OT Kung Fu, because organizational transformation was way too many syllables to begin with. So we're going to shorten that baby down. And so next year, we're going to start calling it Leadership Kung Fu.
Which is exactly what it is. All our podcasts are about leadership and how to be better leaders. And so, yeah, simple, simple, simple. The practice and art and discipline of leadership.
That's right. And so the good news is you still have the Kung Fu metaphor.
You're going to let it go. You're going to let it go.
We're going to tell you about it every episode, because mastery, practice, discipline, mindfulness, it's all part of the deal.
Yes.
And that philosophy really, really hasn't changed. But we're going to give you less syllables and an easier thing to remember.
Yes.
And so we're looking forward. Maybe we'll even get a new theme song, because, why not?
Yeah. Okay. We'll talk to Chip about that. Chip, we need a new theme song. So, from Satori Consulting, from me to all of our listeners, and to you, Jen, happy holidays. All the best in 2025. We're looking forward to an extremely positive year of growth and leadership and just all good things in 2025. It's going to be an awesome year.
It's going to be an awesome year. So happy holidays to all the listeners. We want to thank all of you who download, who listen, who have engaged in some Kung Fu on your own. Bring us comments, bring us thoughts. Tell us if you hate the new name. It'd be good to know.
Give us ideas of what you'd like to hear about, and we want to hear from you so that we can give you content that is meaningful to you. So what are you wrestling with? What can we help you with? We
Yeah,
are,
what's that podcast you wish we did and we haven't done yet?
yeah, we're never short of ideas. So
Never
to
sure
help.
of ideas. Otherwise, we're marching on. We're marching on with a big goal and a big new shiny name, and we're looking forward to 2025. So everybody, best of luck on your goal setting. Hope that was helpful. All right, Sandy, I'll see you the next time.
See you in 2025.
All right, Happy New Year.
You too.
Thank you so much for listening. You can check out Sandy's website at satoriconsultinginc.ca. That's SATORI consultinginc.ca. And visit Jen's website at own-up.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.